Welcome to Stories of Creativity. I'm your host, Jo Vertis, and my guest today is Dr. Annett Richter. Annett is a professor of music history, a professional lute player, and in recent years, she's added a whole new layer to her career with alcoholinks painting. I had the privilege of introducing Annett to alcoholinks back in 2019 when I was doing an artist residency in Minnesota at the invitation of her colleague and our mutual friend, Dr. Stephen Makala. Annett, thank you so much for coming and joining me. Would you like to share what was it about alcoholinks painting that got you so interested you kept doing it and eventually in a professional capacity as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jo, for having me here. It's immensely exciting to be a part of your channel, be part of your project, and to be able to share a bit about my creative life with others. So thank you so much.
Delighted.
Alcohol inks, my goodness, they almost sort of changed my creative life overnight in a sense. So I met Jo, as she said, a few years ago when she was up here in Minnesota where I teach, and she gave this wonderful, inspiring residency that was related to her own work with alcoholinks. Those of us who attended her workshops and lectures and panels got to have sort of a closer look at the process of her working with the inks. And I was immensely excited to observe and try and witness. And what was fascinating to me was that the inks have these properties that are both very vibrant and bright in color, but also the way they work on the page. And so I was mesmerized observing you work with them and demonstrating them for us in the sense that they mingle and merge on the page in a way that's, at least to a degree, unpredictable. And I was very much drawn in by the process of working with the inks and being in the moment. And this was happening at a time in my life when other parts of my life were sort of not very predictable and unstable. And I think that perhaps that was a sort of visual, creative parallel to where I was in my own life otherwise. And it was something creative that put me in the moment and that made me focus on what was happening on the page with these inks, and to, as I sometimes say, watch them sort of dance across the page and see how they come together in unpredictable ways and new colors or shapes that they form. Shapes that they form when they dry. And it was just such a wonderful activity to be a part of and to learn about, that I got so inspired that, a couple of days after you were here, I went out and bought some inks and some paper and some other things and tried this at home. And I mean, it seemed as though the possibilities of creating were endless. And this idea of having sort of a set product or end result in mind was really refuted by working with these inks. And no matter what comes out at the end is obviously something creative, and it's something beautiful. And letting the inks sort of do their thing on the page was something very gratifying. And also, I found that it was something that helped me to let go of the perfectionism that is in me and has been there for many decades. And to just let it be in the moment, observe the process. Let the process be sort of therapeutic to you as a creator, and enjoy what ends up settling and drying on the page. And I was just immensely excited and inspired by working with the inks, and it also rekindled a passion that I had about making art back in the 90s when I lived in Germany, and I experimented with some oil paints that I had won as a set through a drawing at a local supermarket. And I never thought I would win anything in a drawing of that kind. I'm not usually lucky with that kind of thing. But lo and behold, I was chosen, and so I went to the supermarket with my mom, and we picked up this box of oil paints, and had some turpentine in it, brushes. I think there was an easel and a canvas. And so I just figured out how to use those, and I had a tremendous amount of fun. Kind of copying, images by other artists that I really enjoyed. And it was so freeing to try this kind of creativity. And anyway, then life happened, and I had done some drawing and sketching a few years after that when I came over to this country. But it was just kind of a side activity that I did now and then. I didn't think anything of it or to do anything with it. And then when I met you, that sort of set into motion a reawakening, perhaps, of my passion for creating art, not just with the alcoholinks, but once the pandemic came to us, and we were quarantined, I ended up taking a number of different classes that were offered by our local art museum in Fargo, working with different media. And I felt almost as though, well, I don't really have much prior experience with any of these media. I'm just going to go for it and try it. And all of these classes were taught by a different professional artist. So we did some botanical drawing with graphite pencils, colored pencils. There was a harvest drawing class that was wonderful. We drew some squash and apples and things. I took a class with an acrylic, working with acrylic paint, and some other ones as well. And it was tremendously therapeutic and healing, and a way to process and get through the tumultuous time of being at home all of a sudden because of this global pandemic, and everyone was in that situation and had to figure things out. It really uplifted me despite all the tragedy that was happening across the world. And so I've kept that passion going since then, and I'm really grateful about that. And I've gone into different directions, and I've done more with the creativity and the artistic creation, and I've been able to share it with others, and that's what's been perhaps most gratifying. So I've been fortunate enough to either be part of group exhibitions online or in person here locally, or I've also had some of my own solo exhibitions, and I've I've been very encouraged and grateful for feedback that I've gotten from visitors, viewers of my art, and I've been inspired. I've been delighted by hearing their different perspectives and readings of what they might see in some of my alcohol ink paintings. And it's so refreshing to realize that everyone or the art speaks to everyone in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of creates a sense of communal communication for me, knowing that I can reach out and speak to others through my creativity has been something very positive and encouraging, especially given that my background in the visual arts is almost like a puzzle of sorts. I have little pieces, here and there from different times of my life that just sort of existed individually. But I think the past few years, when I've been able to share my art with others, being able to hear their comments, their questions, has kind of allowed me to see it as a more of a unified whole, and my past experiences coming together in order to ultimately encourage communication with others, and also to be inspired with or by other artists and seeing their work, completely different from what I'm doing. It's been a wonderful journey in that regard, in that part of my life, and it's almost as if it's sometimes hard to sort of realize that all of these things have indeed happened. But I think, as many of us probably experience, that one piece of communication, one piece of sharing, one experience leads to another. And it opens up perspectives and doors that you didn't think about when you begin this journey, right? And so it's been wonderful to share creativity with other people and to be inspired by others, and also to inspire others.
Absolutely. Wow. I'm so proud of you and inspired by you. I'm so impressed with what you've done with your alcoholinks paintings, participating in art shows, having your own solo art shows, winning awards, working in collaboration with a theater production. You've just been on fire with this. And I'm so gratified to see that it brought something very similarly meaningful to your life that it did to mine. I think few would disagree that classical music training brings out the perfectionist in everybody. If not, I don't want to say it too negatively, but I'll speak for myself. I think it diminished my creativity in some ways over the years of that perfectionist-driven pursuit. Alcoholinks totally changed that for me by the nature of the inability we have as artists to completely control the outcome. And I love that happened for you too, and that was therapeutic for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I am so grateful. And you're so right. Since we both have a musical background, I think anyone who goes on this path, mostly perhaps as a performer or as an aspiring performer, the idea is practice every day, practice for long chunks of time. And all of those things are absolutely important. But I think it takes us away from doing something that is sort of inspired by like being spontaneous, being in the moment, letting your inner passion come out, also just exploring. The inks have definitely taught me that, and it was quite eye-opening to get back into that kind of mode of thinking. And everyone is wired differently. There are so many incredible musicians out there who are just admirable in terms of the dedication and the amount of time that they put in to practice their craft. And it's, of course, fantastic to listen to them and to hear them and to watch them. Some of us, I think, perhaps do or are more productive in engaging with creativity in different ways. And I think all of these kinds of ways are valid and have their merits. And I think I was at a point in my life where I needed a change. And so somehow this was just sort of like the perfect piece of the puzzle that was maybe still waiting to be filled. And yeah,
Nice.
It's been wonderful to keep working with the inks, and I'm so grateful for your inspiration, Joe. Yeah.
Oh, same. You inspire me too. And I appreciate how you framed that. I think there's definitely a lot of value in practicing and doing that diligent work of perfecting a craft such as classical music. And I have so much appreciation for people who do it for decades, which I did, which I guess what happened for me was that I lost a balance between that that discipline and the playfulness and the spontaneity and the love in the creation process, which is what visual art and alcoholinks specifically brought back to me. So I think it's probably about finding a balance in one's artistic life.
I completely agree. I think we all find ourselves in moments of whether shorter term or longer term where we are under pressure for one reason or another. And I think we all try to do our best and sustain, right, our creativity under a great amount of pressure. And some of us are very successful. I always admire those who are. And some of us need another way to find a balance and perhaps find another niche in which they can be creative in a way that is more spontaneous and perhaps encourages some sort of an inner passion or inspiration from others to come out or to try something new. And that's an act of courage to say, I'm going to try this. I've not done this before or not done this before in this way, but I'm compelled to give this a try because I'm inspired, right, to do this, or I'm inspired to experience a change, whether that change is sort of planned or not. Maybe it's not planned, and see what happens. I think that's a great act of courage.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, and whatever happens, you learn from what you did. It is going to inspire something else in you, something else, another way in which you might be creative. I've been so inspired by your short little videos about creative ideas. a wonderful way to share your passion, your ideas with others. And I think the world needs artists of all sorts who are sharing their passion and their creativity with others in whatever way. And I think I'd like to think of artists as people who contribute to a sort of communal sense of sharing their art, experiencing their art, letting their art be experienced by others, and hopefully make the world a better place that way, even if it's just sort of a small piece of the pie.
Absolutely. In what ways do your experiences in making visual art impact your work as a musician and professor? Or vice versa? Like how do your various art forms influence each other? What do you learn from one that you can apply to another?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question. Something that comes to mind immediately is working in the role of a teacher, teaching college students, whether as freshmen or as upper level undergraduate students or as graduate students, to perhaps embrace a way of learning that includes a number of different forms of creativity, or art forms for that matter. So one example, in the music history classroom, I have learned that including visual elements in the teaching is often quite beneficial to students, as they can absorb information perhaps more easily in a visual way rather than just reading a book or listening to a lecture. And so I supplement teaching materials all the time with pictures.
Nice.
This goes right along with my passion for the visual arts. I love pictures of all sorts myself. And there's so much that you can learn by looking at images. And images inform our learning of it and understanding of the history of music in so many different ways, whether it's cultural, social contexts, what musical instruments looked like in a certain period of time, who played music, in what context, all those kinds of things, while of course teaching the students to take visual documents with a grain of salt, because not everything can be taken at face value, but thereby also teaching them an appreciation for the visual arts, and teaching them curiosity about learning through the visual arts, and also making them realize that it's all connected. The different arts are all connected in so many different ways, and to become a sort of an individual with a well-rounded education, it is tremendously beneficial to learn about different forms of artistries, how they are connected. So I show a lot of pictures in the classroom, and so far I've not gotten any complaints.
I bet.
It has helped students in one way or another.
That's wonderful.
So that's a wonderful thing to realize, yeah. And it also makes the students appreciate art in the sense that they actually become more aware of their visual surroundings. Or they might go at one point, to a museum of some kind, and they come back to me and share with me what they saw and how it grabbed them and how it made them connect what they saw to what we did in class. And it's just one of those teacher's moments of gratitude, and I just love that. Connections between different art forms, between music and art, my research focuses on the intersections between music and painting, music in painting. So depictions of music making scenes in a painting and what we can glean from it and what we can learn from it, or what we might find out the painter perhaps has depicted something in a way that kind of turns our perception and our understanding of tradition or convention kind of upside down, and kind of going beyond the surface and asking lots of questions. So
wonderful. And just to inform viewers, your research focuses on early music, correct? What time period?
some of it is, so I've mostly worked in the 16th century in England and in Italy, depictions of musicians, mostly women.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that makes sense that the paintings would give us a lot of clues we don't have access to anywhere else. Obviously, we don't have any recordings what they were doing then.
Precisely. Yeah, that's why they can be such informative and important and insightful documents to draw. Right. And they, you become sort of like a little detective. You're trying to solve the question of the puzzle or what's depicted, sort of like a little Sherlock Holmes maybe.
Fun.
And the students enjoy it.
Thank you so much for watching. Part 2 of my interview with Annett will be coming out soon. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to my channel. Have a beautiful day with your creativity, my friend. See you next time. Bye.